You ever hear someone say they've upgraded after leaving you? Like, somehow you were the old phone model they traded in, and now they're flaunting around with the shiny new version. Yeah, that's exactly what my ex told me. Word for word. At first, I laughed. I mean, who says that out loud? Who actually looks at someone they once loved and brags about upgrading? But deep down, man, it stung. I tried to brush it off, told myself it didn't matter, but the truth? It followed me like an echo I couldn't shut off. I'm Jake, and this story isn't just about some breakup drama. It's about what happened after those words. Because as much as my ex thought she'd moved up in life, her own sister ended up showing me something completely different. But let me back up for a second. When my ex, Hannah, and I first met, it was that kind of connection people talk about in movies. Late-night drives, playlists we made for each other, staying up too late laughing about dumb stuff nobody else would care about. For a while, it felt like she got me in a way nobody else ever had. But then things started to shift. At first, it was little comments. Jokes about the way I dressed, or how I didn't have the right kind of job yet. Then it turned into her comparing me to people I'd never met. Guys with better cars, bigger paychecks, flashier lifestyles. She'd laugh it off, but the message was loud and clear. I wasn't measuring up. The night everything ended is still burned into my memory. We were sitting in her car outside my apartment. She had this cold look in her eyes, like she'd already checked out long before saying the words. And when I asked why, she didn't even hesitate. She said, "Jake, I found someone better. I upgraded." Like she was proud of it. I sat there, stunned, trying to process what I'd just heard. The girl I thought was my person, the one I'd bent over backwards for, was tossing me aside like last year's iPhone. And as much as I wanted to tell myself I didn't care, that I'd move on, part of me was crushed. But here's the thing. Life has a strange way of flipping the script when you least expect it. Because not long after Hannah cut me out of her life, I crossed paths with someone who knew the truth. Someone who wasn't afraid to tell me that maybe I wasn't the one losing out here. Someone who made me realize that Hannah's so-called upgrade wasn't all it seemed. And the crazy part? That someone was her own sister. Now, I know what you're thinking, drama, right? But trust me, you don't even know the half of it. Because what happened next, it changed everything. Before everything blew up, before those words about upgrading tore through me like glass, things between Hannah and me weren't always this toxic. That's the part that makes it so confusing, and maybe that's why I held on longer than I should have. Hannah had this magnetic energy about her. She could walk into any room and instantly draw people's attention without even trying. Everyone wanted to be around her. Friends, co-workers, even strangers. She had that effortless charm, that confidence that made you feel lucky just to stand next to her. And for a while, I really believed she chose me because she saw something special in me too. Our relationship started off like a dream. She'd send me good morning texts before my alarm even went off. She'd wait outside my job just to surprise me with coffee. We made all these plans, vacations we'd take, the apartment we'd decorate together, even the names of the dog we swore we'd adopt one day. It felt real. It felt like forever. But somewhere along the way, the vibe shifted. I don't know if it was pressure from her friend group, people who were obsessed with appearances and social media, always posting luxury bags and trips, or if Hannah just got tired of the simplicity of what I had to offer. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't pulling six figures or driving a car that turned heads. I was just me, working my steady job, saving little by little, trying to build something solid. And little by little, she started acting like that wasn't enough. At family dinners, I'd catch her rolling her eyes when I talked about work. When we were with her friends, she'd laugh along whenever they joked about guys who lacked ambition. And when I asked her what was wrong, she'd smile and say, "Nothing, babe," like I was imagining it. But inside, I could feel the gap between us widening. Funny thing is, the only person who ever seemed to notice what I was feeling was her sister, Emily. Emily was the opposite of Hannah in so many ways. Quieter, more grounded. She didn't care about fancy things or showing off. Whenever I was around their family, Emily was the one who'd ask how I was really doing, not just nod politely and move on. She had this way of making me feel heard, which is ironic, considering she was the younger sibling. Back then, I didn't think much of it. I just appreciated having someone in her family who didn't make me feel small. I figured that's what sisters did, balance each other out. But looking back now, I realize Emily saw things about me that Hannah either ignored or refused to acknowledge. And maybe that's why what happened later hit so much harder. Because while Hannah was busy chasing this idea of upgrading, Emily was paying attention in a way Hannah never did. And when the truth about Hannah's new relationship started to unravel, Emily was the one who stepped forward, and everything I thought I knew got turned upside down. After Hannah ended things with me, she didn't waste a second moving on. Within days, pictures of her and this new guy started popping up all over her socials. Expensive dinners, weekend getaways, luxury gifts. It was like she'd been waiting her whole life to show the world she was with someone better. And every post felt like a direct shot at me. The captions stung the most, little digs disguised as casual flexes. Stuff like, "Finally with a man who knows my worth," or "No more settling for less." People were eating it up, dropping fire emojis and "Yas Queen" comments like she'd just leveled up in some video game. I told myself not to care, but the truth? It was like watching her rewrite our entire story, making me the villain in a play I didn't even audition for. Then one night, out of nowhere, I got a message. It wasn't from Hannah. It was from Emily. She kept it simple at first, asked how I was holding up, said she'd noticed how messy Hannah had been acting online. I didn't think much of it, figured she was just being polite. But as we kept talking, her tone shifted. She started hinting at things I didn't know, things about Hannah's upgrade. Emily told me this guy, the one Hannah was so proud of, wasn't what he seemed. That behind the flashy cars and expensive dinners, there was a side to him Hannah wasn't posting. She didn't give me all the details, but she made it clear appearances were deceiving. At first, I didn't want to believe it. I mean, was this just Emily being protective of me? Or was she trying to stir up drama between her sister and her new man? Either way, it planted a seed in my mind that I couldn't ignore. The more Emily hinted, the more I started questioning what I saw online. And the more I questioned, the angrier I became. Not just at Hannah, but at myself for still caring so much. But then Emily dropped one line that changed everything. She said, "Jake, if you knew what I know, you'd realize you were never the one losing here. Hannah was." And just like that, I was hooked. I had to know. The problem was, Emily wasn't ready to tell me everything yet. She said it was complicated, too complicated to explain over text. But she wanted to meet. And that's when everything started to spiral. The night I agreed to meet Emily, I couldn't sit still. My mind was spinning, trying to piece together what she might know that could turn Hannah's perfect new life upside down. I told myself not to expect too much, but deep down, I knew Emily wasn't the type to stir drama without a reason. We met at this quiet little cafe on the edge of town. The kind of place where nobody really pays attention to you, which made sense if she was planning to share something she didn't want others overhearing. When she walked in, she looked nervous, not in the casual, "Hey, let's grab coffee" way, but in the heavy, "I've been carrying a secret too long" way. The first thing she said to me wasn't hello. It was, "Jake, you need to promise me you'll keep an open mind." Right there, my stomach dropped. She started slowly, asking how I'd been holding up, if I still thought about Hannah. I gave her the usual surface-level answers, but she could see through me. Emily had this calm, steady way of looking at you that made lying impossible. And then she leaned forward and lowered her voice. "Jake," she said, "my sister, she's not happy. Not like she's pretending to be." I froze, because that wasn't what I was expecting. I thought Emily was going to say the new guy had a shady past, or that Hannah had cheated while we were still together. But unhappy? That didn't match the glossy photos, the fancy trips, the million-dollar smiles. Emily must have read my face, because she added, "What you see online is a highlight reel. What's happening behind the scenes is different. Very different." The way she said it sent a chill through me. I pressed for details, but Emily hesitated. She kept glancing at the door, like someone might walk in at any second. She said Hannah's new man was the kind of guy who knew how to put on a show, but that when the cameras were off, he wasn't the prince she thought she'd landed. My heart pounded as Emily spoke, every word pulling me deeper into this storm I didn't even realize was forming. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Emily didn't answer right away. She sipped her coffee, eyes fixed on mine, like she was deciding how much to risk by letting me in on the truth. Finally, she whispered, "Because you deserve to know. You were never the problem, Jake. You were the prize she didn't recognize. And now she's paying for it." Her words hung in the air like smoke. I wanted to demand an explanation, to make her spill everything right there. But just as she opened her mouth to say more, her phone buzzed. She looked down, and all the color drained from her face. She shoved the phone across the table to me. "See for yourself," she said. And what I saw on that screen, it made my blood run cold. On Emily's phone was a picture, not one of Hannah's staged, perfect posts, but a blurry shot taken late at night. Hannah's new boyfriend wasn't alone. He was outside a bar, his arm around another woman, leaning in way too close to be just friends. My jaw tightened, but before I could even process the betrayal, Emily said something that shook me harder than the photo itself. "Jake, that's not the worst part." She slid to the next image, and my stomach flipped. The woman wasn't just anyone. It was Emily. I stared at her, completely lost for words. My chest felt like it caved in. "What is this supposed to mean?" I asked, my voice breaking. Emily's hands trembled as she grabbed her phone back. "It's not what it looks like. He cornered me. He's been trying things. And Hannah doesn't believe me. She thinks I'm jealous of her upgrade." The cafe suddenly felt too small, too quiet. My pulse was racing. If what Emily was saying was true, then Hannah wasn't just blinded by love. She was standing beside someone dangerous. And that's when Emily leaned in and whispered, "Jake, we need to stop him before it gets worse." My head was spinning. Emily's words echoed in my ears. We need to stop him. That night, I barely slept. Every memory of Hannah calling me a downgrade clashed with the image of her boyfriend wrapped around Emily. As much as I hated to admit it, I still cared. Not because I wanted Hannah back, but because I couldn't stand the thought of her being trapped in something toxic and refusing to see it. The next day, Emily asked me to meet her again, this time at her parents' house. When I pulled up, my heart nearly stopped. Hannah's car was in the driveway. Inside, voices were already raised. Hannah was shouting, accusing Emily of making up stories to ruin her happiness. Emily was fighting back, insisting she was telling the truth. Then Hannah spotted me standing there, and her eyes went wide with disgust. "You brought him into this?" she snapped. "Unbelievable." Before I could even answer, Emily whipped out her phone and played a voice recording. The room fell silent. It was Hannah's boyfriend. His voice, low and angry, pressuring Emily, calling her names, threatening to make sure she stayed quiet. Hannah's face went pale. For a moment, I thought she'd finally see the truth. But instead, she broke down crying, not out of anger at him, but out of humiliation. The perfect upgrade she bragged about was nothing more than a facade. The house felt like it was caving in as Hannah admitted she'd known some of it all along. But she stayed anyway, too scared of what people would say if her better man turned out to be worse. Emily wrapped her arms around her sister, and for the first time, I saw Hannah's armor crack. It should have ended there, but then came the twist I didn't see coming. Because as Emily comforted Hannah, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes and mouthed the words, "I told you." In that moment, I realized something I never expected. This wasn't just about exposing Hannah's boyfriend. It was about Emily showing me, in her own way, that she'd always seen my worth. And standing there, with Hannah finally broken and Emily by her side, I knew the story wasn't finished yet. After that night, nothing went back to the way it was before. The truth was out, the illusion shattered, and Hannah couldn't hide behind her glossy pictures anymore. For the first time in a long time, she looked human, vulnerable, lost, and maybe even a little ashamed. She broke things off with her so-called upgrade almost immediately. There were tears, arguments, and plenty of damage control on her end, but eventually, the post stopped. The dinners, the gifts, the vacations, gone. What was left behind was just Hannah, forced to face the silence she'd been trying to drown out. And as much as I wanted to hate her, I didn't. I couldn't. Because I saw someone who made a bad choice and got caught in her own trap. She wanted the world to think she'd won, but deep down, she'd lost herself in the process. That realization was enough punishment without me adding to it. As for Emily, things between us shifted after that night. I'd always known she was kind, steady, the type of person who actually listened. But now, I saw her in a completely new light. She had risked everything, even her relationship with her sister, to stand up for the truth. And when she told me I was the real prize, she wasn't just throwing out comforting words. She meant it. We didn't rush into anything romantic. That would have felt wrong, messy, maybe even like rubbing salt in old wounds. Instead, we started slow, talking more, spending time together without the weight of Hannah hanging over us. And with each conversation, I realized Emily didn't just notice me. She understood me in a way her sister never had. People sometimes ask me if I regret being with Hannah in the first place, knowing how it ended. My answer? No. Because without that heartbreak, without those harsh words about being downgraded, I might have never discovered who really valued me for me. The funny thing about life is, sometimes the people who claim to upgrade are really the ones settling. They chase the shiny distraction, the bigger paycheck, the flashier image, but in the process, they miss the substance, the heart, the loyalty standing right in front of them. I learned that being called less doesn't make you less. Someone else's opinion doesn't define your worth. What matters is finding the people who see you, really see you, even when the world is busy looking the other way. Hannah thought she traded up. Maybe she believed it. But at the end of the day, it was Emily who proved who the real prize was. Not because she chose me, but because she reminded me to choose myself. And if there's one thing I want you to take from this story, it's this. Sometimes the rejection you think will break you is the very thing that sets you free. 48.